If you missed the last countdown video I posted where I ranked my 15 favorite coasters I rode for the first time in 2024, I'd suggest going back and watching that first. It's not entirely necessary, but I like to think of today's list as a sequel. 2024 may have been a mixed year for the amusement industry, but I'd like to think I made up for some of that by traveling loads. It was a monumental time in my personal life as I got to bring both of my YouTube channels to exciting places all over the world. Over on Travel Dash, I was able to break the monetization barrier, clearing 1,000 subscribers at the beginning of 2024, and now less than a year later, it's more than 2 times bigger. I visited 6 national parks across the country, 6 of which were new to me, and hit up 25 US states, 4 of which were new, meaning I'm now just 5 away from having been to all 50 states. Here on Coaster Dash, we gained nearly 23,000 subscribers, which is absolutely absurd considering last year that number wasn't even a third as much. I visited theme parks in 18 different states, 13 countries, and altogether went to more than 40 new ones, which is the focus of today's video. So let's count down my top 10 favorite theme parks I've visited for the first time in 2024. Before we dig in, thank you all very much for your continued support. The lifestyle I've been living wouldn't be possible without it. Now, I got to hit some damn good stuff in 2024 and couldn't just narrow down the top 10, so how about some honorable mentions? First up, Canopy Lake Park in New Hampshire, USA. This is an incredibly charming family-owned park with a decent assortment of rides, including 3 roller coasters, which are fun but not outstanding. I love the park's location right along Canopy Lake and the free boat cruise they offer as well. A new signature coaster of some kind could go a long way here. Phantasiana in Austria is one of the teeniest legit amusement parks I've been to by footprint, but they've managed to pack in a lot. Most of what they have here are family attractions, but the upcoming Helios will shake things up and give them a much-deserved standout ride. It's a very well-maintained park with a great team to back it up, and it's one I look forward to returning to. Funtown Splashtown USA in Maine is another small park with a shockingly impressive variety of rides, not to mention their water park. Excalibur is a very solid coaster, their dark ride is unbelievably outstanding, and they have some unique flat rides. My biggest criticism is the atmosphere feels a bit dead, but otherwise this place is awesome. Land of Legends in Turkey is a much larger property than Funtown that suffers from the same issue, and that's a lack of atmosphere. But I'll also say for as big of a park as it is, it could use another big coaster or 2. Their current largest is a monster of a ride and very unique, but as a diehard coaster enthusiast, this is about the only reason to visit this park. La Paule in France is very cool, and it's not often you come across an amusement park zoo hybrid. This right here is one of them and also might be my favorite I've been to. They have a great little coaster lineup, it's a gorgeous park, and I like the atmosphere. The only downside is I visited on a rainy day, so a lot of the animals weren't out, kind of taking away from the selling point of this place being a zoo. Nigloland in France is another great park in the country that I found a challenge to rank since it is one of the most stunningly gorgeous properties I've ever visited, but it just doesn't have the ride lineup I'm looking for. With only one coaster I'd make it a point to re-ride. Their Niglo show thing makes up for that though, very weird. Paulton's Park in the UK is another unbelievably pretty theme park with so much to offer for younger guests, but that's just it. Paulton's isn't targeting my audience. Therefore, none of their 7 coasters did all that much for me, so it would be nice to see them add something that at least teeters on that thrill level. I did enjoy their zoo area though, that was cool. Sarkaniemi in Finland is, as per usual in the Nordic region of Europe, a beautiful park with an outrageous setting along the water, but similar to the last few parks I've talked about, they don't have nearly as many great rides as I wish they did. Tornado is cool, like it's unique and all, but other than that, I found myself struggling to find things really worth my time. Six Flags Great Escape in New York, USA was my final Six Flags park, and it's a solid one for sure. While it has some of those nasty advertisements and slow operations, several of the coasters are also dog crap, others are fun and some sections look nice. I found it to be a very inconsistent park in that way, but still the good attributes were enough to grant it a spot in the honorable mentions. Lastly, Via Land in Turkey was certainly my favorite park in the country. I was impressed by how well maintained and clean this park was, combined with a spectacular setting in the heart of Istanbul and an enjoyable ride lineup. Nefeskesin was a cool standout coaster, their flat rides and water rides are superb, and their dark ride was wildly impressive. Now for the top 10, and let's begin in Ireland for Emerald Park. I knew this was going to be one of the rare European parks that was strictly amusement, not themed, but even so, it was maintained wonderfully. I enjoyed their 6 coasters, especially the 1-2 punch of Fianna Force and Cuchulainn, which is one of the best top 2s on the continent. But the other strong suit of Emerald Park, which I'd never heard anyone talk about, was their world-class zoo, easily one of the best I've ever visited. Number 9, Bayern Park in Germany. I never heard anyone talk about this park like ever, and I think that contributed to my expectations being blown away. They have 5 coasters here, including Freyschütz, which is one of the most intense rides I've probably ever been on, but I'd argue it's their non-coasters that are the real stars. I'm talking one of the tallest drop towers in Europe, a bizarre floating raft ride, an indoor drop tower with theming, and the rare instance of tubing in a theme park. Top it off with beautiful decor and landscaping, and you've got yourself a real winner. Number 8, Indiana Beach in Indiana, USA. My final major park in the States turned out to be one of its biggest gems. This is the definition of an old-school classic Americana amusement park, oozing with charm and containing some of the most bizarre rides I've ever seen. Their chair swing that tries to kill you, dark rides which spark after every corner, and maybe Earth's most bizarre coaster ever. I'm also a big fan of wooden coasters, so having 3 CCIs in one park was a real treat. Also worth noting are their world-famous tacos and spectacular location on Lake Schaefer, where an awesome free boat cruise awaits you. Number 7, Wiener Prater in Austria. One of the oldest parks in the world, and you can feel that because it is ridiculously unconventional. The way this place functions are different rides are owned by different showmen, meaning things are competitive, meaning a lot of stuff is very unique. From the world's largest traveling coaster to flat rides so crazy they're illegal in the United States, and the most horrifying dark ride I've ridden, there's so much to enjoy here. I also just loved the atmosphere and found that the park really came alive after sunset. Number 6, Blackpool Pleasure Beach in the UK. Initial impressions weren't great with this one. We were driving around Blackpool and seeing parts of the park bit by bit that all looked sketchy, complete with Big One, which had its train stuck on the lift hill for days. And all of that had us feeling quite iffy. But things turned around the second we got inside the park and were treated to an incredible, well-kept old school vibe, 10 fascinating roller coasters, including Big One, which did miraculously open, and so many fascinating dark rides. From the world's oldest ghost train to my favorite water ride maybe I've ever been on, I was floored by how much this park had to offer. Number 5, Santa's Village in New Hampshire, USA. Having this so high, it might seem like a joke, but believe me, I was tempted to put it even higher. This might be the most underrated theme park we have here in the States. It is pure joy from beginning to end. Stupidly charming and well landscaped with a stellar location in the White Mountains and tons of fascinating attractions. A modern Vekoma coaster, a themed antique cars, a charming shooting dark ride, a heavily wooded log ride, tubing, and a launched raft thing. What does this park not have? Okay, maybe not a large-scale coaster. I'm sure this park would have gone even higher with one, but I still think it should be much more of a widely known park in the enthusiast community. What an awesome place. Number 4, Universal Studios Florida in Florida, USA. While not technically my first time, 2024 marked my first visit as an adult and as a theme park enthusiast, so I felt like it qualified. And not only did it qualify, it easily cracked my top 5, delivering far beyond my expectations. This park is often glossed over relative to others in Florida, and I think that's why I found it to be so underrated. They are heavy on screen-based dark rides, but if it ain't broke, why fix it? Their 4 coasters are all solid. Of course, Hollywood Red Rocket only has a little longer at the park, but I'm sure it'll be replaced by something substantially better. Revenge of the Mummy is a tremendous indoor coaster, maybe the best one I've ridden, and Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringotts is also terrific. Actually, that goes for the entire Diagon Alley area. How absolutely incredible. I can't wait to come back when they inevitably get their world-class coaster investment. Number 3, Thorpe Park in the UK. Before last year, I'd never heard much about this park, and now that I've had the chance to visit, I'm not sure why. Of course, now they have Hyperia, which is easily the best coaster ever built in the UK, and rounds out their stupendous lineup of attractions. But Thorpe was also shockingly well operated, especially relative to other Merlin properties I felt were exactly the opposite. This is one of the only parks I've been to where if you happen to get last ride of the night on something, they'll send you around twice, and it's little things like that that elevated this park to the next level for me. Number 2, Alton Towers in the UK. While I draw issue with how this park is run, going back to my point about Merlin parks not delivering typically in that department, I still have an overwhelming amount of positives to share. Not only is this park huge, but it's gorgeous the whole way through, with a marvelous setting containing medieval castles and gardens. They also take their time to theme most areas, delivering by far the highest standard of theming in the UK. I also find it impressive just how creative they had to get to build rides and attractions, considering they can't go above the tree line. Obviously, some things like their amazing dark rides are simple to work in, but their coasters, that's what's wild. Rides like Nemesis Reborn, which they blasted trenches to fit in, and Smiler, which has more inversions than any other coaster, are amazing. I absolutely loved Alton Towers, but with a few operational differences, it could have been number 1 on my list. Instead, I'll be giving that honor to Disneyland Paris in France. And maybe this was an obvious choice for some of you since I am a big Disney Parks fan, but Paris, dare I say, is one of their more beautiful properties. I was never not impressed by the whimsical nature of the park, extending to their castle being easily my favorite in the chain. In terms of rides, while I wish they had more standouts on a global scale, they still do have some classics like Pirates of the Caribbean, Phantom Manor, and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, all of which are top tier relative to their sister variants. Like other Disney parks, operations were outstanding, customer service is peak, and literally the only thing I didn't like about Disneyland Paris was the food, which I found just okay. Otherwise, Disneyland Paris deserves the hype. It is a fantastic park to visit in Europe and my absolute favorite of 2024. But I'd love to hear in the comments what your favorites were this past year. I'm sure it's a very different list from mine. Otherwise, be sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to Coaster Dash for more content like this in the future. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye guys.